Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me, as always, of another winning night in college basketball, Andy Molitor. How are you, bud?
Yeah, that was fun. Again, don't watch those games. Like, just set up final score alerts. Don't pay attention. Like, Hampton was getting the snot kicked out of him, apparently, and they had a nice second half. You're going to have nice second halves, you're going to have bad second halves. These are children. These are children playing basketball that we gamble money on. So just it'll all come out in the wash. Good wins, bad beats. It comes out in the end. But yeah, we are dangerously close to having a ton of sports going on. Obviously, the NHL is like 3 weeks out now, but NBA tonight. It is starting tonight. We have, we're in the midst of the stretch run of the NFL, the lowest excitement level ever for a bowl season, but we still are in bowl season. We still do have the championship. Like I said, hockey around the corner, college basketball full kick right now. So kind of a nice little, like the sports bukkake that we had towards the end of the summer, a little bit of that feel, except without the, just every day having sports in the middle of the day. NBA games at like noon again. Bring that back. Bring that back.
Anything in the world. Afternoon sports for everyone. That was absolutely spectacular. And I know everyone says just move to the West Coast and everything starts at 4 p.m. Yeah. Give me something that starts like at 1 in the afternoon. Come on. That was fantastic.
Yeah, pitchers and catchers reporting. Yeah, if you get into soccer right in the midst of the European leagues, don't watch MLS. That's garbage. But NBA opener, big story today. I even made a banner for it. NBA opening day. It's happening. Only 2 games today, but there are a big slate tomorrow. We'll likely do an NBA guest tomorrow, talk about a bunch of those, just because I'm not going to have a lot more to add on NFL. I've probably filled up almost my entire card now. I'll have one more today. And, we don't have a Thursday night football game, so we'll get heavy into NBA tomorrow. But today we'll probably just mostly picks again, starting with college basketball. Huh? Yeah, I got good numbers. I talked about how to get good numbers with me. If you follow me on BetSperts and get the notifications, I said these were pretty big edges. I would still play these down at 9.5 and whatever Hampton was at that point. Obviously, Hampton won outright, and we got inside any number you could possibly get really on Evansville, so that was nice. Today is no different with the number moving. This opened at +9. I got them at 9. I would still play this at 7.5. Not a lot further than that, though. This is a little shorter leash. This is we're still in non-con stuff. We do have some conference basketball going on. This is a non-conference game. It's a little of both going on. This is not a bad team for the conference. Like, it's a middle-of-the-pack Southland team. They're decent, but they are still a Southland team stepping up and playing what UTSA is Conference USA, I believe, which is a much better conference. But I don't have UTSA as a very good team within their conference. They're doing some things poorly. They do not force turnovers. They're not getting extra possessions, and they shouldn't be favored by this much. So I like this one quite a bit. It's my only play for today in a pretty big slate. I talked a big game yesterday about, hey, 3 o'clock comes, I'm going to be hitting on these openers, and I've completely forgot about that until like later in the night. So today I'm going to do better. I'm going to get everything populated, get everything ready to scrape. I'm going to try to get openers out a little sooner. And this is true. Lamar was hilarious in Revenge of the Nerds. He threw the javelin.
He did. He did. The specially designed javelin. And, folks, the best part about the BetSperts app is you don't have to, wait for it and be on at 3 p.m. when Andy's, hypothetically forgetting about us. You just put the notifications on and you get a little buzz or vibrate or whatever you got set up on your phone there whenever he does do it. So you don't even really have to wait or worry about a time. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is a good question from Redaholics. It is just a little different, especially when you haven't seen some of these teams playing better teams. That's where I'm fine with this. Like, UTSA has played a nice blend of teams. They've played some decent teams to go with their, there's so many of these teams that play these non D1 teams just beat the tar out of them. I don't think UTSA has actually beat a Division I team this year. Obviously, Lamar is. I'm looking up their record, 1-6. They are 1-6, but I mean they've played some better teams. They played Tulane, who I love. They played Houston. So non-conference is a little goofy because of the big difference in skill level you get at certain times, and I think, truthfully, the books might have trouble setting some of those lines as well. So. That's it for today, but nice slate tomorrow. I'll try to get some stuff out this afternoon for college basketball tomorrow. And on to the NFL, huh?
Yeah, like what you said there about kind of the variance from conference and non-conference. I think, like you said, that's where you can get a lot of advantage and where there might be some softness in the lines because it is hard to evaluate the difference in talent. But we'll jump into the NFL here for a little bit. Another NFL pick for myself. I like the Miami Dolphins -2.5. Posted that on BetSperts last night. I think it's actually at -3. That's starting to pop up some places. I still like it at -3. Just a combination of continuing my fade of the Raiders. I think that the Raiders continue to play really poorly. I know that the game last week was close, but that's the Chargers more to me than what it was the Raiders. I mean, the Chargers had every opportunity, I think, to put that game away. Still were able to screw around, as much as it was great to get that 3.5 that we had, especially when it closes at 3, you get, arguably the most valuable half point in all of sports. And we still didn't feel great about that. But this week, again, happy to attack the Raiders. They are at home again. We've got the Dolphins on the road, but I make this -4, frankly. I think the Dolphins are a much better team. I think that they're undervalued here a little bit. I think that last week, what a lot of people saw was them struggle to score points against the New England Patriots. That's not going to happen this week. This Raiders defense is not stopping anybody, let alone this Miami Dolphins team, especially if Parker can stay healthy and Tua can find some time to maybe finally make some throws here. So I think it's a great matchup. Again, a team that's just playing really well, and I think still a little bit undervalued against a team that I'm happy to go against again this week in the Las Vegas Raiders. So what do you think of that, Andy? Miami -2.5.
Yeah, Miami is a weird thing where people want to just automatically fade them. They get so lucky on defense, and they have all these they're not lucky. They're opportunistic. Like, they are a good defense at times, especially, sometimes they do give up some big chunk plays, but it's the turnovers are there. They have a good special teams who's turning the ball over. And, sometimes luck is equal parts preparation and skill at times. So that's not how that equation goes, but I changed it for this purpose. They're not completely just lucky on defense. They are a team that does turn the ball over by stripping, punching, and making plays on the ball. So I like this. I played this over in this game because I think not only it's just Oakland, I'm going to call them Oakland. Las Vegas's defense is just so bad. And they continue to lose pieces on the defensive secondary, some COVID pieces, and still, even with the Dolphins defense playing well, I think Vegas does get theirs. Even with Mariota, he brings a different kind of game, but he didn't look bad at certain times. So I think it's some Mariota garbage time points that gets us over the total. I do think Miami wins this game.
Yeah, I like that over. And the Mariota angle is just another thing I like. I think that kind of helped them last week because you have that sudden change for the Chargers. Miami knows all week it's going to be Mariota, and I think we've seen Marcus Mariota enough to know that he's not a great quarterback. So I think that the Miami defense is going to have no problem with them. But like you said, towards the end of the game, I think they'll put up enough points, and Miami should score a bunch here. So, if the -3 disappears by the time you listen to this or it gets to be too expensive, maybe wait for a Miami team total over, something like that, just like the Dolphins against the Raiders this week. What do you have for us in the NFL?
It'll be interesting to see what Mariota brings. I'm excited. It's a Samoan on Samoan action.
That's true.
Somebody and a guy, he works.
That's got to be a first.
Motoy. He had these takes. He tweeted this out in June, and he said on December 27th we might have an all Samoan quarterback matchup, which is hilarious. And he called it that far back. But I did have an ad in the NFL, and it is the Rams, and this is just a gross. And I get the bounce back angle and the whatever you want to call it, coming back off such an ugly loss angle. It's not even any of that. It is strictly a numbers play for me. I cannot make the Rams a dog, even on the road here. I'm making home field essentially 0, especially it's not a long travel spot. It's still a West Coast game. we're not allowing fans into the stadium. It takes away a big part of that. Home field is almost negated if you go look at the numbers right now. And I have the Rams as 1.5-point favorite. So I cannot in good conscience not play this. I said this on Sunday. I said I'm likely going to bet the Rams in some way, shape, or form. And it's probably going to be the money line. There's some 105s out there, but I shopped. I found plus 110 at 3 different books. So I didn't feel too bad about saying that's what I got. And literally I bet this earlier in the day. So there's some big discrepancies in pressure. Seattle D has been playing up. They made some good acquisitions. You get Adams, you get Dunlap. They're both getting a ton of sacks, a ton of pressure. But the Rams are top 10 in the league in pressure rate as far as not allowing pressures on their quarterback, which is good because road Goff, pressure Goff, that's not what you want. I can't have a bad Jared Goff in this game and still expect to get this done. So I need that to stay up. And the Rams do really, rate highly on the other end of that as far as getting pressures. Obviously, you know who they have in Aaron Donald and a couple other nice pieces up front. So, and this isn't a bad question. It's tricky because I don't think the parlay math gets there. I think they might still need to beat Arizona now. I'm looking in, like, my afternoon is spent on probably a lot of playoff scenario stuff. 538 actually has a nice article or resource on that. I'm going to check out. Somebody shared, but yeah, McVay, the narrative-y, but McVay does coach well against this team. He's 5-2 all time against Seattle coming into the league, and I mean they've been a good team during those years. And really, it's going to come down to the injuries too. I don't really rate the Akers injury that highly. Seattle has some injuries up front, and really losing a running back for the Rams doesn't bother me at all. They have 2 decent backups in Henderson and Brown, and they'll be just fine in that sense. So this is one I like quite a bit, and yeah, played plus money out of it. We talked about this early last week. Instead of taking like a plus 1.5, I'm going to be fine with this, even in a lower lined game that does tend to play close. And this might bite me in the ass in this one, truthfully, because it's a Seattle game and they don't play normal games.
Yeah, it's a perfect buy low spot on the Rams. You're going to wonder if maybe last week's loss is a little attributed to the look ahead to this spot. Like you said, McVay is very good against Seattle. And Seattle, besides putting up 40 points against the Jets, has failed to score more than 30 points for the last 6 weeks now. Have not played terribly well. I think they were a lot more at risk in that game in Washington last week than maybe they'd like to admit. So I like that. That's a good look on the Rams.
Yeah, remember this stuff when we get to like week 6 of next year and things feel absolutely locked into place, as Russell Wilson MVP did. It's just, I mean, there were people that's just like, oh, he won it. He finally did it. Like, man, it is October. We need to just calm our tits here. It's not something that happens in October. There's so many. It's like April, World Series parades. You get hot in April, and I believe was that the Mariners the other year that actually Seattle that happened to. They got really hot, and it's like it's a really big season, you guys. So, and even in a smaller sample size like the NFL, you can't go crowning people in October. Look what's happening to the Steelers. Can't even crown them in November. Yeah,
want to crown our asses. Love Danny Green. All right,
Mets fans every year. Yeah, that is true. So. All right, well, we talked NBA opener, so let's do more NBA because it is the NBA.
That's right. Our final NBA future, because we do have NBA basketball tonight, and I will get to some actual plays on tonight's game, one specifically that I already put in the BetSperts app. But our final future here is going to be a Detroit Pistons win total. Their win total is sitting at 23.5. When you take a look at what they did last year, they were about a 30% win team, a little better on the Pythag. Again, that puts them at a win percentage to 23.5 of right around 32.5%. So, the market is expecting a slight improvement out of the Pistons this year, and I am just flabbergasted by that. When I take a look at what this team did, loses Christian Wood, loses Luke Kennard, brings in a couple nice rookies. I do like Sadiq Bey. Killian Hayes could be a nice piece. But overall, you're looking at one of what I think might be the worst starting lineups in the NBA. Killian Hayes, you can have as a rookie point guard, DeLon Wright, who is not really a starter in the NBA. I mean, he's mostly been a backup in his career. You've got Jeremy Grant, who they signed to a huge contract for reasons unbeknownst to me. Nice player, but not somebody that I want on 4 years at like $20 million a year or something like that. Just an outrageous number. You have Blake Griffin again, another year older, another year on those knees, a guy who's still a lot of fun to watch when he's playing, but it's hard to think he's going to watch. And then another big offseason addition, Mason Plumlee, because for some reason he continues to get work in the NBA. This team is just putrid. You look at the bench, Derrick Rose, he might actually start. We'll see if he's coming off the bench. He's listed as coming off the bench right now, maybe just some preseason oddities. Josh Jackson, and then a couple guys, frankly, I've never even heard of, and Jahlil Okafor. This team is just a mess. As you start to look at that again, the 23.5 wins put them at about a 33% win percentage. Every season, there's about 3 to 5 teams that are under 30% win percentage. And I think this is clearly one of those teams this year. So I'm happy to line up on the under there.
Well, not only that, but something that Drew brought up I do too much stuff now. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Drew just talking some NBA last night on overtime after the halftime debacle. And, the fact that some of these East teams are going to play so many West teams in their schedule, it's a weird unbalanced thing. And the East is a worser conference, but being in the East, you're going to play a lot more Western teams for some reason with the schedule, and having to play the tougher conference isn't going to help Detroit. Like Detroit's in the East, right? I'm not misspeaking.
Yeah. So the way the schedule normally works is you play in an 82-game season, you would play everyone in your conference 4 times and then everyone in the other conference twice. I think there's a couple, based on the numbers, a few teams play somebody in their own conference 3 times. But this year, you still play the Western Conference twice, but you only play the Eastern Conference 3 times. So it's the same number of games, but in a shorter season. So it takes up a bigger percentage of the schedule. And it's a great point. The Western Conference is the better conference.
Games against the East is what,
Exactly. Right. You get, it's one less game against Cleveland. It's one less game against New York, or, one less game against Detroit, frankly. So happy to go under here and under on some of those teams. It's a great point. I think you're right. Drew brought that up. So like that as our final NBA future. And what we'll actually do on the Brown Bag accounts, I'll put together a tweet and we'll put out all the futures that we've talked about over the last week or so you can go out and grab those before tonight. Because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at 7 o'clock, we have basketball.
Real live basketball. What time is this game? What game's first? There's 2 games.
The first game is Brooklyn versus Golden State. That's going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Nets are out to a 7.5-point favorite. Let me see what the total is. It was 229 when I woke up this morning and has moved up to like 232. I'm seeing even 233 now. Not really anything there for me to play. I grabbed Nets team total over 118.5 early this morning. It looks like that number is now 119.5. If you can find that, that's okay. If it gets to 120, I think you pass on that and then, maybe hope for a slow start in the first quarter there in the first game and look for a live over. That game should be a lot of fun. The Nets roster is loaded, but a lot of question marks in terms of the locker room, in terms of what the coaching staff's going to do. But the game I do like, and the game I do have a pick in, is at 10 o'clock. That'll be the nightcap. The battle for LA. We've got the Clippers versus the Lakers. The Lakers are -2.5 when I posted out on BetSperts last night. I think 3s are starting to pop up. So jump in and try to grab the 2.5 if you can. If you do have a 3, that's fine too. Worst case, you'll push if they win by 3. I think that's just fine. It's just a really nice matchup for the Lakers. They've had a lot of success against the Clippers. I think LeBron James, an opening night, knows the importance of making a statement. He generally does pretty well in these situations. And I think that they're going to come out with Anthony Davis and LeBron and just be a tighter unit. The Clippers, again, coming off a lot of controversy last season. I wonder how they're still going to put things together. I also worry about the loss of Marcus Morris. He's a nice piece for them and someone who actually really plays very well against the Lakers. He really gets under Anthony Davis's skin. He's another guy that you can put on LeBron to try to give Paul George and Kawhi some rest. So as I start to look at the matchup, frankly, itself, I think the Lakers are just a slightly better roster. I make them a 4-point favorite, probably closer to 3.5, actually, if I round down instead of rounding up. I make them about a 3.5, almost 4-point favorite. So happy to grab the 2.5, even the -3 here. Just like the matchup and
I was going to say, would you still play a cheap 3 if it was out there, if you just really wanted to play a game tonight? Because I do.
Yeah, I think the cheap 3 is just fine. That number is still pretty good. It's just LeBron James and Anthony Davis are better than Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Until Kawhi Leonard and Paul George do something about that, LeBron or Anthony Davis has a chance to be the best player on the floor. You always want to start with that when you're thinking of the matchup. Again, as I start to bring in the addition of Schroeder, when I start to bring in the addition of Marcus Gasol and what Montrezl Harrell is going to do, I think the Lakers are going to be much better in the backup minutes than they were last year. And those were the minutes when the Clippers really sort of caught up with them in those matchups. So I think it's a nice spot for the Lakers here tonight. Love the matchup. And as much as you don't want to try to handicap stuff with angles like this, I think opening night matters to LeBron. So I like the play, and what the heck, we'll call that LeBron thing a cherry on the Sunday.
Yeah, I dig it. So, quick recap. We'll call it our day. Nice tight show. Got a few picks in. We'll hit the recap. Detroit Pistons under 23. It kind of just sounds like such a low number. And again, I'm still back at my spot yesterday where I have to remember the fact that, we're sitting here with a shortened season. So it's, it's more like 26, 27, right? I shouldn't even make you do the math because you goofed it up last time.
I did.
But there's almost like a 10% difference in how many games they're playing. So under 23.5 wins on that. Actual NBA play, Lakers -2.5 or 3. If you get a 3, probably still playable. Lamar, the Cardinals of the Southland heading up to UTSA. This is another ugly one, but ugly dogs cover. They don't even have to win. Just keep it close, boys. And yeah, our NFL ads for the weekend: Dolphins -2.5, Rams. Another look I like a lot. So a couple sides we added for the NFL. And we will, like we said, get a guest in tomorrow, talk heavy NBA. If I have any CBB, I will obviously talk about it quickly. We'll get to any plays I have, but tomorrow should be a lot of NBA, excuse me. There's 13 games. We'll have a guest. I'm sure we'll have some picks, angles, and stuff. So heavy NBA Wednesday, especially with no Thursday night football to talk to. So we'll probably talk heavy NBA for a couple days here as we go on. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Make sure you follow us at Brown Bag Bets, ratings, reviews, and get in the DMs, folks. We love it.
See you guys.